Attention, school-based dyslexia educators.
Are you tired of juggling prep work and paper materials?
Amplio Reading Intervention is here to give you more time for what matters most, your students.
Amplio offers fully digitized versions of the renowned MTA and Esperanza curricula, making it easier than ever to deliver structured literacy intervention and track progress in real time, all while staying aligned with Texas Dyslexia Handbook standards.
Come join countless districts who are simplifying their dyslexia interventions with Amplio.
Learn more at ampliolearning.com. That's AMPLIO learning.com. Because empowering students starts with empowering educators.
Hi, this is Amy
and Melissa. We are a couple of retired Texas teachers who are CALTs, Certified Academic Language Therapists. We started our own businesses, and now we have a podcast called The Dyslexia Duo.
So join us for our informative podcast, where we'll delve into dyslexia, covering the topics that affect parents, therapists, teachers, practitioners, and anyone who wants to learn more. We'll guide you through everything you need to know, from the first signs to the intricacies of dyslexia curriculum placement and beyond.
This season, we will cover the referral process, what to expect when your child or student is dyslexic, the generational impacts of dyslexia, and how to support those affected.
Come join us! Thank you for joining us as we resume our conversation with ALTA executives Michelle Qazi and Patricia Elkins. I did have a question that was a little off from this, but it's nothing too horrible. Like in Texas, we have licensed therapists, right? So I have my licensure, and I joke around. It's the same people that license the gas pumps or nail techs. It's the same licensure for that, because I see it on the gas pump. I go, hey, there you are. I've got your card in my wallet. But do other states have licensure also?
I believe that Mississippi offers a licensure as well. But currently, those are the only two states that I'm aware of that have a licensure. And because it's different states, right? States have some autonomy in how they do things. So Mississippi has a little bit different regulations for their licensure than Texas does. Mm-hmm. But I carry that TDLR card in my wallet too, Amy.
Yeah. And you pump gas in Texas, you go, look, there it is.
Just in case they pull you over, you're ready to show your credentials.
Look, here's my number. And I think it's important, like, because I have a private practice, that I'm licensed, and I'm not only licensed, but I'm also insured, which is how I was able to get that insurance for my private practice, is because I am licensed through the state. So that was one of the reasons I kept up with mine, because in Texas, you could get it with a bachelor's, and then they said, now you have to have a master's to get licensed. And I just kept up with it the whole time.
All right. So can you tell me the difference between an ALTA certification and a CERI certification? And what does CERI stand for?
Center for Effective
Reading Instruction.
Thank you. Why would that be the one that eludes me? I don't know.
Yeah. Honestly, I will just say that I think, obviously I'm biased, right? But I believe that ALTA certification is really the gold standard. And there are a couple of things that set us apart that make me and many others make that claim. First of all, just the rigorous training that is required, as well as another thing that sets us apart is the practicum. Now, CERI does have a practicum, but it is, right, for one of their certifications, right? The practicum is just with one student, and it requires only 3 observations.
Oh.
And so the next level of certification then has 3 heterogeneous students and 3 observations still, right? And so I just really feel like the bulk of my learning happened during those observations, right? When Lynn was, and she was not easy on me when, and nor is she, nor should any QI be, right? Like they're really giving you feedback to make you better at what you do. And the more of that you can have, the better instructor you're going to be, the better therapist you're going to be, the better practitioner you're going to be. And so that's why I say really that practicum really sets us apart. And in order to get that ALTA certification, also, you have to be trained by an ALTA qualified instructor or ICALP. And so we know that our training is really rigorous, and it is also, the best training that is out there. And so, whereas with the series certification, I believe you can go to a number of other organizations to get that training, right? So I really feel that those are the big things that kind of set us apart. I used to always tell people, especially when the series certification first came out, and they would say, which one should I go for? And I was like, well, obviously I'm going to tell you to go for the ALTA certification, but you have to make the decision based on your life, and what you can afford as well. And so it's really a personal decision. Do I feel that the ALTA certification is what most people should do? Absolutely. I mean, the depth of knowledge that I gained by going through that training was just incredible. It was the best investment of time and money that I ever made.
So you can have a certification and I'm saying this because I have a certification in both ALTA and SLDS series certified as well. But it was because I was ALTA certified that they said, oh yeah, because I was like, do I have to do the report writing? And all that. They go, no, you've proven it. You're good. You're QI. So they just, they let me apply and I did it that way. So as a QI, I get asked a lot, the differences among Orton Gillingham, OG training, structured literacy, and dyslexia therapy. And I try my darndest to not muddy the water with my description, but I can see the haze fall over people's eyes when I say it. So maybe you have a better way to guide me. What is the differences amongst those three?
Oh, goodness. Well, the haze is going to come, right? I mean, there's no easy way to describe the differences between all of them, although I'm going to attempt to do it right now, right? I look at OG or Orton Gillingham, right? That is the umbrella of the approach to different instruction. And so there are different trainings that fall under that umbrella. There's a number of them, right? There's also a number of instructional programs that fall under that program. And so, but, Orton Gillingham training, right? It was developed by Dr. Orton and Dr. Anna Gillingham, right? Orton Gillingham. And it was based on, their methodologies, which is structured, explicit, multisensory, right? All of those things. A lot of those words are also used under structured literacy, right? And I think the term structured literacy came out to separate what we do and the instruction that is provided from balanced literacy, right? So, that structured literacy has those components, right? It's explicit, it's systematic. I always think right, OG is just that umbrella, and then there are a number of things that fall under it.
And I think balanced literacy is just such a misleading title because you think it's got it all, and it doesn't. It's not balanced at all. The scale, the balance beam's over here, towards the side that you don't want it to be on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and Dr. Hasbrook also talked a little bit about structured literacy, and she's kind of making it sound like the structured literacy terminology is kind of the new terminology that we all should be using because it incorporates all of the structures of our practice of direct instruction, repetition, all of the things that we do.
I'm sure we could talk for hours and debate for hours with a lot of people of whether structured literacy is the umbrella or if OG is the umbrella.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I just kind of had a different little take on this as we were talking about it and, just thinking about all of these different types of certifications that we can get and trainings that we can get. And for any parents that are listening, being a parent of a child who struggled with dyslexia, I want you to be very aware of when you are finding someone to work with your child, that you ask a lot of questions. Someone might tell you that they're certified and have a certificate that hangs on a wall that says, I am certified in ABC curriculum, or OG, I feel like is a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
And they may have went to a training that lasted 4 hours,
Yep.
8 hours, or was a 2-day training.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're thinking about that individual that you want to work with your child, think about how many hours of training that you want them to have.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want them to have completed 16 hours? Do you want them to have had 145 hours of instruction? Or do you want them to have over 200 hours
Mm-hmm.
of instruction? And also just within your schools, just the way that different policies are written today.
Mm-hmm.
A policy can be written that says anyone trained in a program.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the program or curriculum only requires an 8-hour training, it could be delivered by a paraprofessional,
Mm-hmm.
which may be a phenomenal interventionist. However, that's a different level of training than someone who has had 200 hours where they have sat in a classroom listening to a QI, and then 700 hours of practicum with children before they get that ALTA certification. Does that kind of, have you guys ran across that sometime?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I have a parent that I'm working with right now where the interventionist, the teacher, had an 8-hour training and then a half day online training, something like that. And they're working with a severely, profoundly dyslexic student, and they're not understanding why they're not making progress. And I'm sure the teacher's great, but they might be kind of limited by the information. They don't have enough information on how to scaffold and even differentiate to provide the therapeutic, diagnostic, prescriptive instruction that student needs.
I think it's so important that you're sharing this with our listening audience, because we do have parents who don't understand ALTA. They don't know what all of this means. And yes, you guys are wonderful at putting stuff out on Facebook, but if they're not on Facebook and they do happen to listen to this podcast, we're getting another opportunity to share with parents and educators what exactly it is we do, what it means to be certified, how many hours we've gone through education to provide the best quality instruction to kids with dyslexia. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that with us.
No, I think that was great.
Audience.
And I love that came up, because anytime somebody says something, I biographize all the time. And I think of instances that's going on either in my past or right now, that I can attach this meaning to. So I think that's great. So leading to another meaningful statement. Those poor ALTA ladies that answer the phone, I think they know my voice now because I call all the time. But when I was first starting I was leading a district as the lead QI, and we were going through training teachers in the district. We had 36 that we were training in the district. It was a big group, and we were training QITs too. I kept saying, now how do I get ALTA accredited? And she kept going, Amy, you don't get ALTA accredited in the district. That's a whole different thing. I was like, well, where do I get this accreditation from? It's IMSLC. I know it's different from ALTA, but can you explain the difference between IMSLC and ALTA?
Absolutely. I get this question all the time. So if you think about it as IMSLC accredits the training centers, mm-hmm. and ALTA certifies the individuals that go through those accredited training centers.
Okay.
Can you share what IMSLC stands for?
Is it like the International
Multisensory Structured Language Education Council?
Education Council.
Yeah.
Thank you. You did it together.
Yay, we'll hold hands.
Right? IMSLC accredits the training centers that our trainees go through, right? But then ALTA certifies the individuals who go through the training at those training centers.
Got it. So going to SMU would have been an IMSLC accredited center.
Right, exactly. And not every single, right? Like we have a lot of independent QIs who are not accredited under IMSLC, but because they are a QI, right? The difference is that when you are IMSLC accredited, your trainer or your QI or ICALP can just send in a certificate saying, yes, they've met the requirements. Whereas if you are an independent QI, then you have to, you have to document everything that was done. So that's the benefit, right, of going through an accredited center. So although you still sit for the certification and you can still, right. And I mean, it's just as valuable. It's really, if you want to send in all your documentation, or if you just want your trainer to do that.
So it kind of makes it easier for you personally as the person going through the training. If you go to an IMSLC center.
If you're the trainee, yeah. You have to, from my understanding, you have to graduate a class and one person has to sit for their exam before you can be considered if you wanted to go through IMSLC, because I'm considered independent right now until my one person graduates. Well, I have more than one person, but until somebody graduates and sits for their exam, and then IMSLC would start to consider me, and I'd have to go through that process.
And when you're talking about like it's easier for the person getting trained, yes and no, because honestly, they're submitting all of their qualifications and everything that they're doing to their instructor already.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that then the instructor submits that check off. So it's not like they're doing any extra work for an independent QI. Right, because they're already doing it. It's just who they submit to.
Right. Yeah, I have to keep up with everybody's stuff.
So we've talked a lot about the training. We've talked a lot about the gold standard is the CALT, and then going on to get your training to be a QI would be desirable too. There's more need for all of that. However, I'm thinking about the parents. I keep going to the parents because I know that I work with them a lot. And they have reached out to me several times, and they say that it's so great that there are people who are in private practice, people like me, people like Amy, people like y'all, who are doing this type of work. But it is so hard to find people who are doing this type of work too. So why is it difficult for some people to find ALTA members across the country? Is this an area of growth that is needed for ALTA to help the dyslexia training in the communities?
There's always areas for growth, right? It can always be better and better and better, right? Yeah. But yeah, this particular, I think that the reason it's difficult is that not a lot of people know about ALTA, right? And so even teachers, not a lot of them. And so, yes, we definitely need to improve how we market ourselves, right? But I will say for those parents who are listening, the best way to find a member with this level of training is to go right on our website, which is altaread.org. And you can actually just with one or two clicks, look at the member directory, or look at, there's one section on there that says find a therapist, right? And so you can search within your state, and then you will get all of the therapists as well as practitioners who have passed their certification test and have that qualification.
And I think it even says in their bio if they're open to taking private students or not. Yeah.
It sure does. Yeah. So that's actually better than looking at the member directory, right? Because like I'm listed in the member directory, but I'm not on the Find a Therapist page because I'm not taking students.
Okay. So that puts you directly on the Find a Therapist page if you say you're taking students. Otherwise, you're not on the Find a Therapist.
I think that in it, you actually get to fill out a little thing that says, do you want to be on that? Do you want to be on the Find a Therapist page?
I think I probably did that.
Click that box.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. It's been eons.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Awesome.
Okay, I just know that there's a lot of therapists. Like we're heavily saturated here in the DFW Metroplex. And when I look around, there's need in Utah and there's some need in some other areas. So I just wondered if there was a way that we could maybe help parents reach out and find therapists, even virtually. Maybe that would be some ways to help them.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Hi, this is Melissa with Kids First Dyslexia Services. I am excited to share with you my private practice. Kids First Dyslexia Services is a private practice that specializes in dyslexia therapy. Each one-on-one session focuses on instruction specific to your child's needs in a nurturing environment that develops self-esteem, builds confidence, and fosters a sense of accomplishment, resulting in happier kids with higher levels of achievement. We provide a professional, personalized experience, always putting the child first. We value the relationships with both our students and parents, because strengthening skills and overcoming hurdles to achieve desired goals and success is a team effort. For more information, please visit www.kidsfirstdyslexia.com. That is www.kidsfirstdyslexia.com.
Hi there. This is Amy Rodenroth, owner of Discovery Dyslexia Services. So tell me if any of these situations are familiar to you. Your dyslexia teacher/therapist has suddenly retired unexpectedly, and you do not have the personnel to fill the space. Or you do not have enough trained teachers or therapists for the number of students who have qualified for dyslexia services, and you need a trained teacher or therapist quickly, like yesterday quickly. Or you need a teacher to provide compensatory services, and you do not have anyone that can provide what's needed. Well, what do? I'm going to tell you what you can do. You can call Discovery Dyslexia Services. Discovery Dyslexia Services can help you with your various dyslexia concerns. We have multiple CALTs who can provide virtual small group therapy. We can also train your teachers in most dyslexia curricula, either virtually or on site. Just let us know how we can help support you. For more information, go to our website at www.discovereed.com. Let me spell that for you. DYSCOVEREAD.com. I don't know, it's a funny name, but we're providing huge services for our dyslexic population. So keep in mind, Discovery Dyslexia Services, covering all your dyslexia needs. Let's return to the show. When I was training as the lead QI in a district before I retired, we started training, and then COVID hit. And everything, was just, oh my gosh, up was down, down was up. It was a bad time, but it was a bad time to be training people too. It was a bad time for students. So we had to change what we were doing for students. And so the positive, I think, is that we learned, we're doing this via Zoom. Y'all didn't have to come into the office or anything. We didn't have to come to y'all. We're doing this interview via Zoom. We do so many things virtually now. Do you consider that to be a positive or a negative impact for our students with dyslexia, for our teachers going through training? What are y'all's impressions on this?
My impression is that the pandemic was hard. It was difficult. Children struggled, teachers struggled, but I think we all learned a lot. And one of the things that we learned how to do is to deliver instruction virtually and in real time, right? Not necessarily recorded and you watch it later. But I feel that COVID just really opened up a new avenue for students to be able to receive virtual instruction. Melissa, just like you were talking about, that there are not enough academic language therapists across the United States to serve students. When we talked earlier about how ALTA started in Texas, well, it makes sense that we have more therapists in Texas because that's where it started. And then it's kind of spread to states surrounding, or one person would move, like Lynn Fitzhugh, and I think Patty Daly was also early on in Colorado. And so they would come in and they would start it there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But that hasn't happened in every state. So what this new virtual world allows, it will allow a child that lives in Wyoming that they can find a certified academic language therapist who can deliver therapy to them virtually, where they may not have any other local option. And as far as someone becoming trained to be a certified academic language therapist, that same avenue is open, that we have some QIs who are training virtually and are being able to reach markets or areas where we haven't been able to have someone. There's not a QI living in that state to train individuals. So now if we can do it on Zoom, someone could get that training. So I think it's a very positive thing that has happened. What do you think, Michelle?
Yeah, I would agree with you. And not only in that state, but even like I'm from Colorado, and although we have a number of members here in Colorado, they are kind of based in some of the larger cities. And so, and we have a lot of remote mountain communities. And so, even though in our state or even in a city, right, you have access, anybody who lives in a remote area of the state now has access to this great instruction or this training, right? They don't have to drive down the mountain. And as well, like, I just know from working at the hospital as well, right? Sometimes when kids are impacted by illness and they still need this training, now we can shift and say, okay, you don't actually have to miss it. We can still just, come to you virtually. I think it's all about access. And I think that anytime that we expand the access, it's a great thing.
I agree with that. I can remember when kids in the school system would have long-term illnesses and they had to stay home because they were being treated. They would have to find a teacher, a dyslexia person that was trained to go to their house and provide therapy for them in addition to a tutor or whoever they needed for their other subjects. And that was hard. That was hard to find people who would be able to go to those houses and do that. And now we have, they can pop in and do a hybrid setting with their classmates, via Zoom. We have those capacities. I personally work with a student in Ireland virtually. It's a 6-hour time difference, but, like I did it today to work together. And I do some training when teachers are experiencing difficulty in training. I let them attend virtually. And I have a hybrid setting set up. I have people in person and I have people on the screen, and we do it that way too. It makes me sweaty because that's a lot of moving around trying to make sure everybody sees everything. But I don't think we as educators knew what all we were capable of doing. I don't think we realized that we had a bunch of untapped skills there. I never thought of myself as technology savvy, and I still wouldn't say I'm technology savvy, but I'm so much better at it than I was 5 years ago. That's for sure.
Okay, so I have a couple questions for you. One, are you guys going to be at the IDA conference in October that's in Dallas?
I personally am not going to be there. However, ALTA will have representation there, and we are going to have an exhibit booth. So anybody who is there, if you have questions, we will have a person on site to answer all those questions for you.
Wonderful. We'll be there too. So maybe we'll be able to pop over and say hi to the ALTA table. Okay. And then my next question is, when and where is the next ALTA conference?
Oh, we're excited. We're really excited. So the next ALTA conference is coming back to Texas, and it's going to be in Fort. I know, all you Texas people, you get excited. So it's going to be in Fort Worth, May 1st through the 3rd, right? And then just to put it on your radar, the following year, it will be in New Orleans.
Oh, wow.
That'll be fun. It's always on my birthday. The last one in Arkansas, I was there and it was on my birthday. And people are like, you really must like this if you're coming on your birthday.
So you guys will be coming close to where I live. I'm in a suburb of Fort Worth. Nice.
Oh, nice. So you can just drive right in.
Get my
Yeah.
CEs and have a good time in Fort Worth. Yay. And then who are some of the speakers planned for the conference?
Yes. So some of them we can't announce yet because we haven't, completely solidified them. And now, of course, the person that we have completely solidified just went out of my brain. Nancy Hennessy. We're talking about her pairing up with somebody that she presents with often to actually deliver a full day. And then the other person we're working on, I'm super excited, but I can't tell you his name yet. But until we, just out of respect to him, until we solidify it.
What
That
does
makes
it
sense.
rhyme with?
You're like Michael Scott.
Yeah.
So those of us, especially newbies that are getting trained to be therapists and practitioners, I don't think enough talk gets told to them about continuing education. After they sit for their exam and they have that year of grace, right? Because they just went through heck
They've
doing
done it.
everything.
Yeah.
But they have a year of grace and then they start to have to accumulate their CEs. How many CEs does a practitioner and a therapist need to continue with their membership?
10.
Just 10?
10 CEs for both. So each year, once you're a member, each year, then you just have to get 10 CEs. And there's a number of ways to get those CEs. Although right now, one thing that we're working on is really to tighten that process and tighten the organizations that we can get CEs from. Right. And I know that this was a challenge sometimes for members, but right now, so there's a committee that's working on, just making that process easier. We hope to have some communication out pretty soon in an easier, more streamlined way to get those CEs.
And some of the CEs they have to pay for, because that's the thing that I get a lot too. I had somebody today say to me, being a therapist isn't cheap. I'm like, no, it is not a cheap profession because of all the continuing education and keeping up with your certifications and all that. So I know a lot of people are looking at, options where it's either minimal cost or maybe even a free cost, but they do have to pay for some of those CEs. Like when you do an ALTA conference, it's a conference fee, right? So those ALTA hours come with a fee attached to them. But I do think that's something that sometimes we need to talk to our trainees about because I feel like they kind of get sideswiped with it a little bit from time to time because they're like, oh, I didn't know about this part. Yeah, keep your ear out for those CEs, and see how you can amass those.
Yeah, but there are some, right? Like a lot of chapters put on events that meet that CE requirement. And oftentimes those chapters don't charge for those.
Mm-hmm.
There are some out there that you don't have to lay out a fortune for. Right. And honestly, I mean, I'm going to check myself as I say this, right? Because when you go to the ALTA conference, right, you get all of your CEs and then some. And it's actually a less expensive conference than a lot of the conferences that are out there in our field.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to say it's not that expensive because it is, right? But it's a lot less expensive than a lot of other ones.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
And I just wanted to add a no cost opportunity is that each year you can read a book and write a summary of the book and get 3 continuing education hours for that. So that's a great way to keep up. Like whenever one of our favorite reading or dyslexia gurus come out with a new book, read the new book, which you may be able to get at your local library. I always love plugging using your local libraries, but, read the book, write a report, and you've got 3 continuing education hours that were either at a low or no cost to the member to help them with moving forward.
That's wonderful.
As
Thank
long
you.
as it isn't a book within our field, right? Like
it can't be a romance novel.
Isn't there a
exactly.
list? Is there a list? I know there's a video list that ALTA has. There's a book list too, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's really wonderful. Okay. So as far as becoming a CALP or a CALT, if someone is on the fence and they are trying to decide if they want to become one, either a CALP or a CALT, what are some of the benefits of this training in your opinion?
I would say to them, just do it. Right? Like just the level of knowledge that you gain. I really feel like any kid who sits in front of me, I have that knowledge then to reach them and to be able to teach them to read. Even, like I think about before I went through all of this training, I would not have been able to figure out all of the intricacies of just different things that happen in a therapy situation. And like, for example, I will tell you when I was in the school system, right? And this is while I was working on my CALT, I had a student that I worked with who could not blend three phoneme words together to save her life, right? And so she could sit there and say k, ah, t, but then could not blend it to make the word, right? And by going through this training, I had the knowledge then to figure out like, oh, she might only be able to hold a certain number of chunks in her memory. And so then when we switched to kind of that chunked blending, right? Which is k, a, cat, right? Then she was able to do it. And had I not had that training, we would have all been struggling and we would have all been frustrated. And it was just such a simple switch, but such like you have to have a deep knowledge to understand that, right? How memory can impact how kids are reading and how they're performing in therapy. So I will say, like, it is hands down the best thing I have ever done in my life, besides my children, right? Right. They're number one, and then going through this training. And it was hard. Yes, it was hard, but I just came out with it with just such that level of deep knowledge and just gave me a confidence to be able to say yes to helping a lot of kids.
And that brings you a sense of gratification too.
It sure does.
And gives you your purpose in addition to your own children. And Patricia, what are your thoughts on that?
I feel very much like Michelle. For me, I learned more practical, applicable information in my CALT training which was only 2 years compared to my other 6 years getting my bachelor's and my master's. I just came out with hands-on things that I could do and use, and feeling totally equipped for teaching children to read, especially struggling children. And, and I also think that it's something to think about too at different seasons in your life. I kind of waited until my daughter was a senior in high school to do this. So I was at a good season of life, right? Now, had I really quite realized how busy her senior year was going to be for me and decided to get married that year, I might have delayed it another year. It really was a good season for me because I was coming up on that empty nest, right?
Uh-huh.
So it was a really good time for me to do this and to transition in my career. So I think it's also, if it's something that you're interested in and you have that desire to help those who struggle with dyslexia, and you're kind of at a transition, whether it's, moving into that empty nest phase, or maybe retirement's looming on the future, but you still want to be in the education field, but you're not sure what you want to do. This is an excellent choice because you can do private therapy and work with students one-on-one. So I think there's lots of different opportunities and avenues just for different individuals, whether they want to work within a school system or they want to become a private therapist.
Absolutely. I think that's a great response.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So talking about, we're getting ready to kind of wrap it up. Favorite things that our listeners have told us is, who do you get inspired through? What are your favorite authors, your websites, your articles? I'm going to look up that ALTA one about the history of ALTA because I think that would be instrumental to provide to my trainees. What are some of your favorite books, authors, websites, articles that you'd like to refer our listeners to?
One of my favorite books that I just started using this school year is called How Your Brain Learns to Read by Denise Ede. I may be mispronouncing her name, but it's a book for children, and it just really talks to them and shows their brain and the different parts of the brain that gets activated in reading. And the kids just love it. And that I'll say, oh, it talks about, that your visual part of your brain's at the back of your head. And they go, no way. I'm like, I know, right? Our eyes are up here, and the visual part that processes that's all the way at the back. And it talks about your letterbox that recognizes letters. And the kids, one group, I haven't finished the book. And on Friday, they were like, wait, we're not going to get to finish today? And I was like, it'll be next week. So they've really enjoyed learning about what their brain is doing when they're reading, and how that decoding is so important, that we don't guess words. We sound them out, we decode them. So, Michelle, what's one of your favorites?
Oh gosh, you know what? I could read anything or even listen to any of his YouTube videos. Stanislas Dehaene, he has that book, Reading in the Brain. And then his latest book, How We Learn, I'm reading that currently. I just love how he takes something so, like for me anyways, difficult to understand, of how the brain actually works and how it learns to read and all of those parts of the brain, and makes it understandable, right? I mean, here he is, this incredible brain researcher, but the words that he chooses and the words he uses are just easy to understand.
Good layman's terms.
I love him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But another one, I'm gonna get a twofer in here. I also recently read Literacy Foundations for English Learners by Dr. Elsa Cardenas-Hagen. And I think that is just an exceptional book as well, in that, so often we have to think about, for our bilingual students or our second language learners, right? Like, how is language impacting what we're trying to do as well? And is it actually a reading issue, or is it language? And so she just lays that out so nicely. And I think it's just really important.
I think all of us in Texas should be reading that book. I mean, that's a question that comes up all the time in school. Is this a language problem, or is this dyslexia? I mean, we know how to kind of parse some of that out, but I think that would be something that everybody in Texas that works in our area should be reading.
If you could grant one wish for our dyslexic students in the education system, what would it be and why?
Well, I feel like I probably shared my answer earlier when we talked about the qualifications of the individuals that work with children who struggle with dyslexia. I want every child that has that struggle with dyslexia, I want them to have the most highly trained individual. Wouldn't you want that for your own child?
Yes.
Like, you want them to have the best. And that would just be my dream for every one of our kids, that they just have the best, most highly trained professionals that help them conquer reading.
I love that. Thank you. And Michelle?
And to tag on to that, then, right, for every student that is living with dyslexia, whether they know it or not, right, that not only do they have the best qualified person, but they have the best qualified person so that they all learn to read and spell without frustration. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the goal every single year that I set for myself, right? And I just say, until all kids can learn to read and spell without frustration.
I think that's wonderful. And absolutely, put yourself in the parents' shoes. When my kids were in school, I only wanted the best. I mean, I still want the best for them no matter what. But when it came to education, I wanted that highly trained, empathetic educator in the room with them.
And I think this goes to a lot of different things, but I think it's hard for people who don't have a child with dyslexia or any kind of learning disability. I think it's very hard for them to recognize the daily struggles of that child and that family. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go through this every day. Homework is a a beating sometimes when you're helping a child with dyslexia if you are not getting the proper instruction or getting the proper care for them in school. Every day is just traumatic, and you don't want that for any child, your own or any child, because that ultimately affects all of us as a society in the long run.
Well, thank y'all so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate y'all giving up so much of a chunk of your weekend to do this with us. And I know you've answered a lot of questions for our listeners and for, gosh, are people going through training? ALTA's been the best for me. Anybody's going through training, ALTA's been the best. They've been very accepting of all my myriad of crazy questions that I come up with or email or anything like that. So I love that we have this support system in place for our professional organization. So thank y'all so much for coming on and doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. I mean, if I can talk about ALTA and students with dyslexia all day long, I totally would. So thanks for giving me that opportunity.
And Amy and Melissa, I just appreciate all that you're doing to just raise awareness with parents, with other educators. You are just helping move things forward in the field of dyslexia. So thank you for all the great work that you are both doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. Thank you. You both are amazing people.
Yes, absolutely. This is Amy.
And Melissa.
And we're the
Dyslexia Duo.
Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
The Dyslexia Duo podcast hosts are Amy Rodenroth.
Melissa Dean.
Our producer is Greg Rodenroth.
You can find us on Facebook at The Dyslexia Duo.
Email us any questions or comments at thedyslexiaduo@gmail.com.
Awareness is so important. Share this podcast with your friends,
family,
and teachers.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.